BetterHelp Online Therapy bought this 30-second ad to remind you right now, wherever you are, to unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath in and out. Feels better, right? That's 15 seconds of self-care. Imagine what you could do with more. Visit betterhelp.com/randompodcast for 10% off your first month of therapy. No pressure, just help. But for now, just relax.
Raise your hand if you want your nails to look perfect all the time. Me too. I'm Sarah Gibson Tuttle from Olive & June, and this is exactly why we created the Manny system. We wanted to make it possible for everyone everywhere to give themselves a beautiful manicure at home. With our tools and our long-lasting polish, each manicure with our Manny system comes out to just $2. That's right, $2. No more $30, $40, $50 manis that you get at a salon and they take hours. Now you can paint your nails on your time and love them more than ever. And by the way, when people ask, who did your nails, where did you get them done? You're going to proudly say, I did them myself. Get 20% off your first Manny system with code PERFECTManny20 at oliveandjune.com/PerfectManny20. That's code PERFECTManny20 for 20% off at oliveandjune.com/PerfectManny20.
Take control of the numbers and supercharge your small business with Xero. That's Xero. With our easy-to-use accounting software with automation and reporting features, you'll spend less time on manual tasks and more time understanding how your business is doing. 87% of surveyed U.S. customers agree Xero helps improve financial visibility. Search Xero with an X or visit xero.com/ACAST to start your 30-day free trial. Conditions apply.
My guest today on the HQ was born in 1981 in Ascot, England. In 1998, he burst onto the UK music scene as a member of boy band A1. He achieved 2 UK number ones and 6 top 10 hits. 2001 started incredibly well as A1 picked up a Brit Award for Best British Breakthrough Act. He's won a Smash Hit Award for Most Fanciable Male. However, sadly in 2002, fellow bandmate Paul Morazzi decided to leave the band, and shortly afterwards, A1 called it a day. He went on to enjoy musical theatre, songwriting, and a huge solo career. In 2022, he represented Norway in the Eurovision Song Contest as part of Subwoolfer. A1 also reunited for a huge 25th anniversary tour as all 4 members returned to the stage. He now lives in Norway with partner Sarah and 2 very young kids. An all-round good guy, nice guy. Let's hear his story. Ladies and gentlemen, from A1, Mr. Ben Addo!
Thank you. What a lovely intro. That was wonderful. I couldn't have written it better myself.
Was it true?
No.
All of it?
All lies. All lies. I did like the part where you said he won Most Fanciable Male, but unfortunately, and I was like, where's he going to go with this? But no, it went somewhere else.
It went somewhere else.
Somewhere.
I suppose I could have said, but unfortunately, I should have won that year.
Well, did you never win that one?
No, I won Best Haircut. That's as far as I got with that one.
That's the one I wanted. I wanted Best Haircut. So I think I've still got it somewhere. We'll do a swap.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? I actually won Best... I've said this before with Scott, actually, from 5. I won Best Haircut for shaving my head. That's a true story.
Really?
Shaving my head.
Why'd you grow it back?
I don't know it was the truth, but I shaved it. If you remember a song we had years ago called Queen of My Heart, and I shaved it for that video, in the video. And then that was probably around, I don't know, August, September time. And then by Christmas, I kept shaving it. And then I won Best Haircut. But you remember those times. I mean, bring us back to the Smash Hits, because they were good times. They were fun times.
They were amazing times. I mean, to be honest, I joined A1 when I was 16, so I was like fresh out of, I think I'd just done my GCSEs, and then we kind of, working for a bit. And then the first thing we did was the Smash Hits tour, where we were alongside you guys. Was it Best New Band or something like that, wasn't it? That we were all fighting.
Best New Tour Act. That was what it was.
Yeah, so you, us and My Town who later went on, some members, to be the Script. And those were the three bands up against each other. And of course, you won, annoyingly. Obviously, big fix. But no, I mean, it was great. It was great fun. I mean, it was just so weird, like for me going straight from school, and all of my friends from school were like, working in Tesco's and stuff like that. And then I was suddenly on this like massive tour with all these other pop stars. So yeah, it was amazing.
It was good times, and we did. In fairness to Westlife, I mean, we had the Boys On effect because Ronan was co-managing us, as a publicity stunt. So we probably had a little bit of a leg up. But you were right. My town, two lads. Sadly, Mark passed away, but Mark and Danny went on many years later to form the Script. I'm not sure many people know that actually.
No, I mean, I'm sure you can, Chat GPT can probably tell you everything these days, but yeah, that was it's fun to see where people end up, isn't it?
It was old school as well, Ben, if you remember. I was thinking of this earlier because we would there was a vote at the end of every gig, if you remember. We were like, you'd vote for Westlife or you'd vote for A1 or you'd vote for My Town. And then the votes were collected after every show. So like Manchester tonight, Cardiff tomorrow, Sheffield, and so on. And then by the end, obviously Westlife had the most votes, or did we? I don't know. You said it was a fix.
I think you were when you called West Side at the time. Or was that?
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, it really was going back a long time. But I mean, to be honest, I was just so amazed to be part of any of this world, as I guess we all were, because we were all kids. And then suddenly we were on tour with, all of these sort of big pop acts that we all looked up to, and then especially like the Smash Hits Polanders party where you'd have mega stars of like the pop world coming out and sort of presenting, and Will Smith and Britney Spears and all these like super pop stars were just, you were sort of rubbing shoulders with all these people. And for a 16-year-old coming fresh out of school, that was quite bizarre.
Were you intimidated then, do you think, or were you just living the dream?
No, I thought I was the best thing ever. I was going to be, as big as these people. So I didn't have, I was just so full of confidence and it wasn't like it was handed to us. We worked we did a lot of crappy stuff on the way to the Smash Hits. I don't know if you guys ever did any of this, but like all the schools tours and, where you'd go and you'd perform to kids while they were having lunch and queuing up and they didn't care that you were there. Or some of the gigs we did before that were just hilarious. I remember there was one time where we went to do we were doing like a club tour, and we turned up and we were all in like one Ford Mondeo with one driver that kept falling asleep, so squashed in the back of this. And we turned up and we went backstage, and Mark was there ironing his blue shirt and Christian was straightening his yellow shirt, all these stupid pop things. And then the guy that booked us walked in, and he looked at us and he went, just so I'm clear, what kind of band are you? And we were like, we're a pop band, smiling ear to ear. He went, right, okay. And we just didn't think anything of it. And then we walked out on stage and we just looked at the sea of people, and we were not supposed to be booked for that gig. I think there was like a rapper going around, like a hard sort of underground grime rapper that he thought that he'd booked, but instead it was us. And we didn't go down well. It was like people were so disgusted. They didn't even finish their pints. They were throwing whole pint glasses at us. So yeah, rough with the smooth. But I don't even know what the question was. I've just gone off on a tangent. But it's yeah.
You didn't know, but it's funny because I reckon it was Christian's yellow shirt. If you had had been ironing the yellow shirt, maybe the
probably,
point.
Yeah, it's probably that did it. It's mainly Christian all the time anyway. Just throw him. Why not?
So when you grew up in Ascot, take me back to when you were a kid. What type of kid were you? Were you sporty? Was it always singing? Was it music? What was it?
Yeah, I was only really into music. I was just such a big fan of like Michael Jackson, as I think a lot of people my age were at that time. But I just had no way in. I remember just watching all of the videos on MTV and thinking, I really want to be a singer and a pop star and stuff, but I just have no connections at all. But I actually was like classically trained. So because I had no way of being like a pop star or rock star or whatever it was, I joined the choir to learn how to sing, and just because I loved singing. So I was head chorister of St Margaret's Westminster Abbey and we sang for royal weddings, the Queen every Christmas, the Pope. I did 2 classical albums, and we did European tours. We pretty much sort of went round and did like it was kind of like a weird way of touring before I even began touring with A1 and had like this whole classical career. So that was kind of what I did, and that was after school every day. That was every Christmas. That was every every weekend when other people were sort of hanging out with friends or whatever. I would be there singing as head chorister of this choir, and that's really I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I knew somehow I would be doing something to do with music. I don't think my parents thought I was going to join a boy band, and neither did I. By the way, I thought I was going to be a solo artist, as I think most boy band members did. But yeah, that was how it was. And then while I was at school doing GCSEs, a friend of mine said there's this audition in town for this boy band, and so I went for that, and I got it. And then I kind of went to my parents and said, I've got this boy band audition, and they went, well, no, you're going to stay at school and do your A levels. And I said, no, I really, really want to do it. And they said, well, listen, if you get all A's in your GCSEs, we'll let you go off and join this band. And I wasn't great at school. I was like, I used to play around and mess about and not really take it seriously. But then I really took it seriously then. So I got 3 A stars, straight A's for everything. And my parents couldn't say no after that, because that was the deal that they made. So,
well, you brokered a good deal. I mean, that was good parenting.
I know it was very good parenting, but I mean, I forgot it all the next day. I don't remember anything from being back at school. Obviously, because I left when I was 16, so I'm super uneducated. So thank goodness music worked out, because I'm not qualified to do anything else.
So who was the guy who told you about the audition?
It was a girl, actually. It was a girl called Tigger who wanted to be a singer. I actually haven't thought about Tigger since then. But
You owe Tigger everything.
I owe Tigger everything. I haven't even thought about her face. I can picture it now. But yeah, I think there was a musical magazine that used to go around called The Stage. We're going back sometime. And she'd read it in that and just said that there were these open auditions. Do I want to go down? And it wasn't actually for A1 that I auditioned for. It was for a band that were with a company called Rondell Music. And I think that band, I might be wrong, but I think that band ended up being another level. But
really?
I got into that band, and this is very, very early days before they'd found the other guys. And then I'd met Mark through those auditions. He had then met Tim, our manager, who you know, and brought me along there. And then I kind of jumped ship and went with the A1 band rather than they were doing.
I thought another level. I mean, they were a little bit ahead of us ourselves and you. They would have been out a year or two before us, maybe. So you could have maybe a year before us. No, would I be wrong?
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, I wasn't in the band, and then the band started. I was in the band for quite some time before. I mean, I don't think we released my first single till we were 18.
Okay. The best the Smash Hits was 98. So you were together probably from 97 or 96 or something.
Yeah, I think end of 96, 97. I mean, to be honest, my memory for anything even yesterday is quite bad. So, all of this could be lies. But I'm just telling you how I've kind of made up the story to retell it. But yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, as you know, like you just do so many things, and especially when you're in a pop band, you work that hard every single day with no holidays. I can't remember half of it. And some of the stories that the other guys tell become my stories, and then I think that I've done it. Like Christian tells this story about when he met Britney Spears, and this happened and that happened, and I'm pretty sure that happened to me, but it wasn't. It's just a story I've heard that he said that I think is now me. I don't know. It's weird.
Or maybe it was you, and then he's taking it and making it him.
I like to think it was that one. Yeah.
Are you nostalgic? Do you look back in your 40s now? Obviously, you're very happy, you've father, you've kids. I've seen your house on Instagram. It's absolutely mind-blowing views in Norway. I'm jealous. Are you nostalgic? Like, do you think let's say when we're having this conversation now, do you ever revisit where you grew up, walk around, think back to when you were 17, 16, 18, whatever that might be?
I think more now than I did, previously, and especially now that I have kids, and my 3-year-old is very inquisitive, and she loves watching all of the old A1 videos, and if I sing along, she tells me to stop singing because I'm ruining it, kind of thing. But like, I just sort of like, it does take me back a little bit, and I do like to kind of think back, just so that when she comes up with all these questions like, and Daddy, why are you singing here, and where did you go, and like, I can't remember a lot of this stuff, so I really do have to like dig deep, and sort of try and remember what it was like back then. So it is nice to be nostalgic, and I think there's obviously a period after the band splits up where you want to go and do other things, and you sort of put it behind you. But then as you grow older and you sort of just appreciate it for what it was, and you go, oh my God, I did this mega thing back then, and just it was the strangest lifestyle, and there are only a handful of people that can sort of relate to that, I think.
When you go back to, before we move on, Ben, when you go back to your audition, can you remember what you might have sang?
Yeah, of course. I sang Tracy Chapman, Behind the Wall, and that was it's like an a cappella song. And I remember I went into our manager Tim's office, and they were managing Steps at the time.
Yeah, so this is Tim Byrne, who obviously had Steps at that point.
Yeah, and so Steps were a huge band for us. So I was already a bit like, oh my God, these guys are a big deal. But I was just so full of confidence anyway. So I think Mark had met Tim at a concert for his brother's band, and Tim said, can you sing? And Mark said, yeah, I can, but I've got this friend, can I bring him along? And I think Tim was a bit like, oh my God, I've got to see his friend, this is going to be terrible. So I literally walked into an office, it wasn't like an audition thing, and I sang this a cappella, and then I was in the band.
So Tim obviously managed Steps. I didn't know Tim at the time. I got to know Tim when Westlife ended, and he managed me for Eurovision in 2012, just for that kind of 6-month period. But when you go back, he obviously had huge success with Steps. And I always remember thinking, right, well, we're with Louis Walsh, who has had huge success with Boyzone. And then there's A1, who have Tim Byrne, and he's had huge success with Steps. I always felt, and forgive me, Ben, if I'm wrong, but let's hear from your side. I always felt there was this divide, that we weren't allowed like Steps, and we weren't allowed like A1 from a Westlife. Now nobody.
We're allowed to like them. Is that what
but like's probably the wrong. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Just even, we were always around you guys. We did SMTV together. We did Live and Kicking. That we did Smash Hits. So what was your? But I always felt like, I'll put it a different way. I always thought you guys didn't like us.
Well, I tell you, I always thought you guys didn't like us, and that because and like we, as you say, like we probably spent most weekends together, didn't we? Because we were doing the SMTV and the CDUKs and all that kind of stuff, and I think back then the charts were so fiercely contested. Who was number one that next week was. That was a really, really big thing. I mean, now it's all dissolved and nobody knows who's number one at any point. But, if you can number one. So there was a lot of competition going on between our bands. And I think there was a certain amount of like, everybody kind of kept themselves to themselves and didn't sort of see each other as like, all for one for all. It was very much like, well, I don't want you to make it because if you make it, I'm not going to make it because there's only one spot at number one kind of thing. And maybe some of that was, kind of manufactured and helped along by the management teams, maybe subconsciously. But I'm glad we could clear that up because I think we always liked you guys. We were just like, why don't they want to be our friends? I don't know. Like, are we friendly? Are we nice? I don't know.
What was your impression of Westlife?
Well, to be honest, I loved all of your songs, and like, so I Swear It All Over Again when we were doing the Smash Hits poll winners tour. I really wished that we had that song and not. We were going out there with a song called "Be the First to Believe," which was fine. I still look back and I still like that song, but it wasn't really my kind of song that I love. I really love big ballads, and so like things like Spirit All Over Again, and all the follow-up singles you had after that, I was a bit like, damn, I want to be doing those songs, not Summertime of Our Lives, Swimming with Dolphins. I love those now, but like, yeah, I don't know if it was like a bit, not jealousy, but I was just a bit like, there was like a divide, but I always kind of had a lot of respect for all of you.
I love that song, but that you guys have Like a Rose. Was that on your first album?
That was on our first album. That was actually, that's actually, people don't know this. They always think our biggest song was like maybe Caught in the Middle or Same Old Brand New or Take On Me. But Like a Rose is our biggest song. It's our most streamed song.
Okay.
It's in the most royalties and stuff like that. But that's mainly because I guess it was a hit in the UK and in Europe and stuff. But in Asia, that song is like like an absolute standard song that you sing for weddings, or even if you don't know anything about A1 or whatever, it is like just a song that exists outside of A1, nothing to do with the band. So schools will sing it, and kids that are way too young to many generations too young to know who we are sing that song as if it's like I see trees of green, that, whatever, it's that kind of song. So I think mainly it's come from that. But yeah, that was, I actually wrote that song on my own for my mum. So nothing to do with a relationship. Remember sitting very early on, just playing the piano at my stepdad's house and wrote that song. And then I think the guys helped me finish the middle eight and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad you liked that song. We did the most horrendous video for it though. That almost killed the song. I don't know if you remember it. It was
I don't remember the video. I actually, would you believe, I listened before we jumped on today. I was in the car and I was stuck on your stuff, and all the songs start coming back to me. Like, I know them anyway, but have a listen to them in a while.
Yeah.
And I heard that one again. Actually, this was last week as well. And then I was like, this is a really, really good song. To be honest, Ben, I didn't even know you wrote that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that's yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I'm really, really thankful for with Tim. And part of the reason why I went with the A1 project rather than the one with Rondor was that he was very adamant that we wrote all of the songs ourselves, apart from Take On Me, obviously, because that's... Yeah. I would have loved to have written that one. Jesus.
Yeah, so would I.
But yeah, so, like, I really am so thankful for that because, still to this day, like, royalties from all sorts of stuff around the world come through. So even if I don't have a whole bunch of gigs one year or whatever, you can kind of rely on that to sort of feed yourself and your family. So yeah, I wrote all the A1 hits.
And how important, obviously you touched on that Tim, I suppose, facilitated that, but how important was it to you then as an artist to be, what's the word, I suppose, authentic, maybe?
I don't think it was like being authentic back then, but I just had so much confidence when I was young that, I felt like, not that I could do it better than anybody else, but I could certainly do it as well as other people. And I remember the project that me and Mark were in before A1. It wasn't going to be like that. It was basically a team of songwriters, and and then we'd go in and do writing sessions, right, but they would basically have the whole song done, and then we could like change a few lyrics on the second verse or whatever. And me and Mark were like, no, this is not writing a song. This is not what we want to do. So that's why the A1 project felt so much more appealing to us than the previous one. So I guess it was super important back then. But who knows? Maybe if we'd have let more people write the songs, if we had your Steve Max and Wayne Hectors, who were like, I think back to like me as a songwriter now. I mean, I am 1,000 times better songwriter than I ever was back when I was 16 because I have much more experience and I am coming at it from a different place. So if we'd have allowed all the greatest writers of the time to write those songs for us, maybe A1 would have been a bigger band. Right. It's a bit of a kind of toss up, really. But I'm super proud that I can sort of take ownership of. Yeah,
and so you should be. And if you look at the Westlife side of it, people probably don't know this, but I when I joined the lads from an audition process, myself and Brian are from Dublin, the boys are from the West Coast, hence the name Westlife. they had originally, the three lads, Keane, Mark and Shane, had a songbook of songs they'd written because they were in school together. So a bit like the project you're probably talking about with you and Mark, they had that. Then found me and Brian through auditions. We joined that project, learned all those songs, continued with that project, writing all those songs. And then we had a week of auditions in Dublin, where we'll say Monday was Virgin Records flew in to see us, Wednesday was Polydor, and Friday was Sony or BMG at the time. And I remember, let's say on Monday, we rehearsed all week. We sang all our own songs and a couple of covers. End of the Road was our go-to a cappella Boyz II Men song. And then we'd rehearse it. We had it inside out. We had it so tight, all of our songs. And Virgin came over, and they had the Spice Girls at the time. Spice were obviously massive. This was early 98. And Louis Walsh, and Boyzone were huge too, Louis really wanted Virgin Records to sign us. And Virgin met us that day, 40-minute audition in Dublin in the Pod nightclub, and said no. Basically said, no, listen, the guys are great, brilliant singers, look good, whatever, not for us. And that was the first setback we had because Louis was behind us now. We were doing small stuff on Ireland school tours, as you mentioned, and radio tours in Ireland. We just thought it was a foregone conclusion that Virgin would come over and sign us. We had that confidence. They said no. So then Polydor came to town. They looked at 2 days later. They wanted to sign us, but they had Boyzone. So there was a lot of foresight where we, with Louis, went, well, are we going to play second fiddle to Boyzone? Because they're massive. They're huge superstars. They're 6 years in. We're the new boys, but are we really going to get the priority? So then BMG came to town, which was Simon Cowell. Simon was a big record exec, but not famous. Nobody knew him outside of the music industry. And he sat down, he had 5, and 5 were the kind of rappers and bad boys and whatever else you want to call them. And he said, I want to sign him. I know exactly what to do with these guys. And we presented Simon with our songbook and everything else. And we sang a cappella of that one. And I still remember, I could sing them now, those songs that never heard the light of day. And all of a sudden, Simon went, no.
Give us a verse. No.
Yeah. If you vote for us, we'll love you. No.
Gene Smart has just returned to Broadway in the hit play, Call Me Izzy. And critics can't stop raving. The New York Times cheers. Gene Smart is an awe-inspiring triumph. Deadline calls it a tour de force performance and a remarkable new play. The audience is dazzled and completely in her hands, says The New Yorker. And the Washington Post adds, Gene Smart is transfixing. Call Me Izzy, the can't-miss Broadway event of the summer, through August 17th only.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Breaking up is never easy. But saying goodbye to your old clunky work tools? Well, that's easy. Just repeat after me. It's not me, it's definitely you. You rigid, unfriendly software. It's time to freshen things up with Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. With stunning dashboards, customizable templates, and built-in AI that actually works, switching to a new work platform has never felt this good. So move on to Monday.com.
And that was when we sang on the poll winners. Now, again, we got better as we went, by the way. Simon put us straight in with Steve Mack. Straight in. Steve had done a couple of album tracks with Boyzone and others. And all of a sudden we were in with Swear It Again and a song called Everybody Knows, which was a brilliant, brilliant ballad that made an early EP of Westlife, but wasn't on the main album, first album. But yeah, and I think then it's not that we lost the hunger to write. I think we were given no choice. And also, we counted ourselves very lucky. It was great opportunity. We seized the moment. We took the opportunity with two hands. And when Simon Cowell said jump, we said how high. And you're right, we were in with Steve and Wayne, who were just beginning their curve of absolute, I don't know what you'd call it, dominancy. They were just incredible. They Flying Without Wings, Swear It Again. There was I Don't Want to Fight. There was just ballad after ballad after. It was enormous. So I think what we realized, and again, I suppose a little bit of credit to us, that we grabbed it with two hands and didn't let our foot off the gas. And we said yes, and we just ran with it,
Yeah. But I think you were absolutely right to have done that, because I don't think we actually were given that opportunity. We weren't handed songs that were of the level of the songs that you were just talking about. I think we are talking about showcases. We did a similar thing with all of the record companies at Husky Studio or something like that in Elephant Castle. And we had Simon Cowell come down to look at us, and he said no to us. And that's why we went, it's not why we went, but we decided then to go with Columbia, because they were really into us. And there was a lady there called Fran Tackett, who I think we owe most of our success to, but she was like a bull in the china shop with A1. If anybody said, oh no, I don't like them, she would just shut them down straight away. And she was such a big champion in that company. But then, thinking about it and hearing that story, I know that, Simon Cowell was very in with Steve Mack and Wayne Hector at the time, and I guess had kind of vicariously then made you very much in with them as well. So we weren't given, like, I'm pretty sure if they came to us and went, here's Flying Without Wings, and we heard it, we'd just be like, yeah, of course we're going to do it. But we weren't given those songs. So
Stephen Gately actually first recorded Flying Without Wings. I don't know if you know that story.
I didn't know that. Didn't know that.
And Louis Walsh and Simon Cowell mainly, because Louis would have known Stephen obviously from Boyzone. Simon knew a massive hit when he knew one, if you like, and he went after Flying Without Wings. He wouldn't let it go. Similarly, he wanted Baby One More Time for Five, and
I heard that story. Yeah, I heard.
Obviously, Max Martin wouldn't give it up.
Yeah, no, but I mean, who knows? I mean, would it have been as big a hit with Five as Britney Spears? I mean, yes, you came out with that, but it wasn't just the song; it was the whole.
No, of course,
it was the whole Schoolgirl. It was the whole video. It was everything to do with Britney Spears. So, the song is great, of course, but would it have been as big?
So your success, right? A1, obviously huge success in the UK. That moment of winning the Brit Award, can you remember how that came about, or how you felt when you won that?
Let's have a think. That was the only award that year that was voted for by the public. Every other, I don't know if they still do that with the Brits. But I think they have one award that is voted for by the public, and everything else is sort of voted for by a committee. So I think our record company did a really amazing campaign on pushing or getting our fans motivated enough to vote for us. And they voted us through. But I mean, the category that we were in, we have conceded Brit Award there. It's was for Best Newcomer, and we were in the same category as Craig David, who was it? Coldplay, I think it was, and some other massive band. And they had just had it was like Craig's Born to Do It era, and Coldplay just were they on the Yellow album then? I don't know, but it was like we were not clear favourites to win that, and probably shouldn't have won that if it was done by the committee. But our fans were very adamant that we were going to win it, so they just voted in their, I don't even know how many votes went through, and we ended up winning it. But so I mean, I'm forever grateful for that, because once you've won a Brit Award, you've won a Brit Award. No one can take it away. Still on my shelf over there is one of the sort of proudest things that or proudest accolades that came out of A1. But yeah, it was a pretty tough category and pretty miraculous that we won it. But I'm glad we did.
We had a famous, at one of the Brit Awards we were at, we had a fight with, it wasn't a fight, but we discussed it with so Solid Crew. Nothing like that ended up happening with you guys when you went to the Brit Awards, no?
No, well, I think wasn't it what's the Noel Gallagher did get up after we won the award, and he said, "Well, I never thought that the Brit Awards had a sense of humor, but I can see that they do now, having seen A1 win over Coldplay and Craig David." So I mean, it was only that kind of stuff, but I mean, I was so young at the time as well. I think we went out and we just partied the whole time, well, that night in particular. And then, you know, as with winning any big award, you think, oh, we can celebrate. And then the record company just said, hang on a second, you know, you're on GMTV tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So just didn't go to bed. We just partied the whole night and stayed up until we went on to GMTV. I don't actually think Paul made it to the interview. He'd gone off somewhere with some, I don't know, who knows who he's gone off with, but like, he just didn't make it to the thing. I think we were all sitting there in sunglasses completely. It was probably the worst interview that was ever given. But yeah, and that's the thing that I think people don't really know about or don't really appreciate about being a pop star or whatever it is that, you know, it is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. So, you know, it's I guess it's a bit like having kids now. Like if I go out on a night out, I know they're still going to wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They don't care if I've, you know, if I'm hungover or if I'm tired or anything like that. And it's a little bit the same back then with being a pop star, you know. Yeah, you can go and have fun, but you got to be on the ball for the next, you know, the next show you're doing, the next TV, or, you know, sometimes we do 3 or 4 TVs in you know, before midday, and we just like go around on the back of a motorbike, just going from one to the other to dig hits there. So, do you know what I mean? So yeah. It was there was very little fun to be had in that. Even when we were number one, I remember we were in our first number one. I was in a hotel room in LA, so the time difference was crazy. And so I was sort of waiting up, and then we found out that we were number one. Did the interview on Radio 1, and then I was like, I can't believe it. And then I sort of looked around, and no one in America gave a shit who we were. So we were just like, all right, cool. I guess we'll go to bed then, shall we? Because we up at 9 a.m. for the studio. Yeah, sure. So then we went to bed and just carried on as if nothing happened the next day. So yeah, there was, I think I have more fun remembering those times than I did actually going through them.
Yeah. And it's funny because the fans of A1 back, let's say in the UK at that time, are going, yes, the boys have done it. They're number one. We've made it happen for them. They must be partying. They're in America at the moment. They must be having this. And you were tucking up in bed, you know, kind of going, right, lads, we're up for a video shoot or whatever, a photo shoot in the morning.
Definitely. And, you know, this was in the time, obviously, where social media wasn't a thing. Like, so we couldn't just pick up a phone and go online and be like, I wonder what people are saying. I wonder, you know, can we go and like, you know, even like, talk to the fans or thank them or anything. It all had to go through a spokesperson or be done on a TV show, whatever. There was literally nobody around to sort of share the joy with. And I think that's why I found the touring part so tricky in A1. Like we went to Japan a lot because apparently we were doing quite well over there at the time. And you know, we went on these tours. We traveled 47 prefectures in Japan, which is basically like the Japanese version of a city. And there was no mobile phones that worked. There was no English TV. There was no, people wouldn't pick us up in cabs because I don't know, they were scared of us or something. I don't know. And it was just, I felt so lonely and so isolated. And I don't think, you know, and when you were in those countries, I really felt like I was in those countries on my own. Whereas now when I travel, obviously you're so connected to people back home. And I think my phone bill to my mum in Japan for that month was like £4,000 or something, because I was just calling off the hotel phone. So anyway, the point was that I'm just driveling. I'm just, you know, it's nice to chat to you, but it like I have more fun thinking back on what I did than I did when I was going through it, because there was always the next thing. There was always the, all right, you're number one, but like, what happens if your next song's not number one? And what happens if, you know, you mess up on this TV show and the repercussions of that and stuff like that. So yeah, it's more fun to think back on those times. And I totally appreciate them all and wouldn't take it back for anything in the world, because I've got a most fantastic life. But yeah, it was a lot of work, and I think that's why Ben only. Sorry, I'll let you speak in a minute. I forgot you were here. No,
Welcome to Ben Adams podcast with Nicky Byrne. No, I was loving this, but because usually nobody can shut me up, so things have changed. Go, continue.
No. You go. I've said.
No, all I was going to say is I totally relate to it. I totally, the stories you tell of Japan, like America was similar as well. Myself and Joe Amara from S Club talked about a tri-band phone that you used to have for America when you left Ireland or the UK or Europe, whatever. Japan, there was no phones that you didn't have. I remember, stories of Japan similar. I remember ordering breakfast. We were catching the bullet train from one city to another, and we were up early, and I was always on time for breakfast. I think that came from a football discipline background. But when I ordered this, I ordered eggs, and these 2 completely raw eggs arrived to the hotel room with, I can't even remember. I think it was in a soup. Like a plain water, transparent water, and there was all sorts of things sticking out of it. And I love culture. I love all sorts of food and restaurants. And in fact, if I go to a Japanese restaurant, which we would have done at the time, but it was probably a more westernized version of a Japanese restaurant that we were enjoying. But I was going, I now have to get on with my day, to get through this day, to be on, as you say, to be busy, to be energetic, we probably have a TV show that night, whatever we had going on. I can't survive on raw eggs and water. Like, I don't know how we're going to get through this. Like I said, nowadays people will be documenting that on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. But I basically ate McDonald's for a solid 2 months while I was there because I had a similar experience to you. Like, there was nothing that right now I enjoy, Japanese food and everything like that. But I was out of school. I like burgers and chips and like that kind of stuff. I wasn't into like anything with sushi. I mean, what on earth? Raw fish? Like, it's just crazy. So I literally, a teriyaki burger from McDonald's for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I put on so much weight. It was crazy. It was, and also back then I used to get thankfully they stopped now, but I used to get really bad like panic attacks. So, I would sometimes, quite a lot of the time, have to miss some of the performances or the interviews. And this was even in the UK, and especially when we were first starting with the Steps tour. Like, I physically couldn't do these things. I'd always been kind of panicked and worried kind of kid. And I think it really kind of hit home when it was all starting to take off, because we were doing these very important things, and I suddenly had to sit out because I just couldn't do it. I remember Tim had to push me on stage sometimes just so that I could get out. And then when I was out there, it was fine, but it was like the build up of like, and and the thing that worried me the most was like, oh my God, what if I'm sick on stage? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I do the wrong move? What if I, all these what ifs. I wasn't like a sort of carefree person that I am now. I was very, very highly strung back then. So I found all of this really difficult. And then, of course, adding on being away from home, not having any contact with, I mean, I love the guys. They're like brothers, but it's not my mum, it's not my school friends. It's still work colleagues that I'm out there with that are all performing and getting up at the right time and being able to do this. And I was suddenly thought, oh my God, I've wanted to be a singer for the whole of my life. And maybe I can't. Maybe this is not for me. I'm going to have to say no to this amazing opportunity. So I actually hated all of that stuff. Like, Japan for me was like, every time that we would sit in the office in the UK and they go, it's going really well in Japan, it would send me off on another panic attack, because I knew that meant that we'd be off for another 2-3 months to Japan, and just trying to deal with all that like loneliness of being. I literally felt like I was on Mars. Like I had nothing familiar around me at all. But yeah, easier now with smartphones, basically.
Let's go easy on our Japanese counterparts here. Was there anywhere else in the world? Was it similar when you were in China or Southeast Asia or the Middle East or anywhere else you might have been successful?
Yeah, I mean, it was. We did really well in Southeast Asia, and we still go back. Yeah, once every 2 years to do like a big tour over there. And it was the same. There's nothing particular about Japan. It was that because it was so hard to break Japan, we had to go over there for such huge lengths of time. So we maybe go to the Philippines for a week or something, and that was okay. But when it was like, it felt a bit like a jail sentence. Like I had to go for 2 months where I wouldn't see my mum or my girlfriend or anybody. The girlfriend that I wasn't allowed to have, by the way. because that was part of the that's part of the deal of being in a boy band. But yeah, it was just the length of time, I think, that I knew that we had to be over there to break that territory.
Yeah. And it'd be so different now. The FaceTime calls, you look at my kids are older than obviously yours, but everything FaceTime. And even with fans, you mentioned earlier, you have a number one. How do you chat to the fans? Like nowadays, you go on your Instagram live and there might be 2,000 jump on. There could be 10,000 jumps on or whatever it might be. But you're having those one-to-one comment. Now, that brings its negativities too, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot more instant. When we split in 2012, we were very, very happy with what we had achieved. It had been a remarkable 14 years. We'd 14 number ones and we'd done, I think it was 50, 60 million albums. It was, and 10, 12 world. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. We had no regrets. And I remember when we split and we came home and I was sitting in my house and I was looking at X Factor and One Direction were coming through X Factor. And the boys, I'm old enough to be probably their dads, and I genuinely had happiness in my heart for the lads that were embarking on it. I was like, there was no jealousy. It was like, I'm 34 at this point. I'm going, I've done it since I was 18, 17, whatever. And these boys are embarking. So I was totally happy for the lads to go, well, what's ahead of them? They've no idea. This is going to be phenomenal. And then Twitter had just started probably a year or 2, 3 before that. Instagram hadn't. I wasn't on Instagram. I remember setting up Instagram for my first Instagram post was signing a solo deal for the Eurovision in 2016. That was when I set up Instagram. So I was already split from so our hype, our heyday was 10 years gone, pretty much. And then you could only see people at like 20 million followers, 30 million followers. I'm thinking, I often still wonder what would it have been like. Like, I don't know, maybe I am jealous when it comes to the Instagram followers. I can't get my head around it.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? Because people of our era, unless you, I don't know, married someone who is a particularly massive social media star or whatever, like those kind of numbers don't really exist. And I know there was a period for a time where a lot of people were buying their followers. So suddenly, people of our era would suddenly have 1 million and you'd be like, well, hold on a second, let me have a look at their friends. And it's like people with no followers, some bots or something like that.
I can gladly say I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Me neither. But I know it's very easy to do. But they, you can't really compete with that kind of thing. And I think that I actually don't mind that too much because I find social media quite a chore, if I'm honest. And I often forget to do or to put stuff out there. And the other interesting thing is that of the stuff that I do put out, things about me and my personal life or my house or my family or anything like that, they get a lot of attention. When I put anything out about work, I'm doing this concert, blah, blah, blah. I mean, in comparison, it's like chalk and cheese. Like, I'm like, but I'm doing it so that I can obviously, promote things and people know what I'm doing. But really, people just want to see my life. And that's kind of how the world has become quite kind of intrusive. And I think it's kind of spoilt. I want my pop stars to be like how I remember them. Like, Michael Jackson to me was this unobtainable,
untouchable. I know exactly what. Yeah.
Person. I don't want to see him eat dinner. I don't want to see, him take a shit. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see any of this. I want him to be the megastar that I picture in my head. I don't want to know that he's a normal human being. And now everybody has to be, very relatable and very normal and very whatever. And I can kind of participate in that to a certain extent, but I certainly don't let, people in to actually what's going on in my actual private time. I just show people what I'm happy to show them. But I'm pretty sure like I could probably have many more followers if I were to show them all the nitty gritty bits and the bits where I feel sad or depressed or something hasn't gone right. But I don't want to show people that because that's not why do they need to know that? They don't need to know that. Like they just need to know the version of me that I'm happy to share. And yeah, so it's a funny game. I think we could all, even when I did Celebrity Big Brother, like I was one of the most boring contestants on that show that I think there's ever been, because I thought, all right, well, I'm going to do this show, but I'm not going to show myself up in public. I'm not going to have sex with someone on TV or be bad-mannered or get into arguments or whatever. So, if Coolio was there having an argument with Vern Troyer, Mini-Me or whatever, or whatever was going on, I would just walk out of the room. Because I was like, I don't want people to see this side of me. I don't want people to know what I'm like when I get angry or when I'm sad or anything like that. So I'd probably make a very boring reality TV star because I'm quite guarded in that sense. But the point is that I'm pretty sure if you were the type of person that wanted to go out there and share warts and all, those are the kind of people that have, insane followings online. And I'm quite happy with having the amount of followers that I have that enjoy sharing whatever I'm willing to share. So I don't sort of like feel the need to have more, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And listen, I have 532,000 Instagram followers as I sit here now, right? And I don't overshare. I totally get what you mean. I mean, I'll put up, let's say, and my kids are 18, so when you get to like 14, 15, 16, they start to not want you to put them up, particularly because the pictures start to appear everywhere, whether it's one of the publications online, and then they're on the internet forever. So you start to get that as well, and yes, you got to start looking out for them. So I'd be very calculated in what I share. I like to celebrate birthday. I like to mark the birthdays, or my dad passed away very suddenly years and years ago, and I like to always put something up there. And I get it sometimes because people might say, "Well, who are you doing that for?" Because let's say on Father's Day, you might write to all the fathers who aren't with us anymore. Let's not. Or I've never actually written that, but so to speak. But that's what I mean. But it's almost like I'm trying to do it as well to remember him in a little way for him, if that makes sense. As a memory alive. Everybody pity me. I think of this every Christmas Eve, me drinking a pint at the bar here at the house. And I go, to Dad. And it's kind of like a tradition now. And I'm pissed off at myself if I don't do it. But I also hate when an hour or two or a day later I see some of the publications might say, Nicky's heartbreaking post to late father, and then there's all these fans jumping on going, I hope you're okay. And I'm thinking, no, I am okay. This was 15 years ago. I'm just, it's Christmas, it's family. Maybe I'm wrong too, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but you don't know where these things end up, and there have been so many news articles about me, and I live in Norway now, where there's a whole A1 were even bigger in Norway than we were anywhere else, really. So it's media. They're quite respectful over here, but they do write a lot of stories that are about nothing, or they'll make about stuff up, and they'll take pictures from my Instagram, and then they'll put pictures of my kids in the papers or in whatever, and my wife is very conscious to not have my kids' faces out there, but I'm so proud of them. I just want people to see how cute they are, So sometimes I did recently put out a picture of them all, but I have to really say to my wife, is it okay if I do? But even when I've done that, that picture ended up in
everywhere.
4 or 5 different news articles and stuff. And, in the days that we live now with AI and stuff, it's frightening, the stuff that people send me of me talking. There's not talking, giving them a birthday message and stuff like that. There are varying degrees of like how convincing some of these things are, but some of them I'm like looking at it going like, did I say that? I don't know.
Yeah.
And when you think about, your kids, my daughter's 3, my son is 1, and I listen to all sorts, especially when we travel a lot with A1, like up and down the country doing these various gigs. And me and Christian listen a lot to podcasts, and that, it's frightening what is out there, and like the people that prey on kids and all, and you just don't know where these images are going to end up, or who's going to superimpose a picture to do. I just don't, don't even want to send my brain there. So it's such a, I don't know, like it's a sort of necessary evil for me, wise to put stuff out there and and let people know what I'm doing for work, but not let them in too much. I mean, I probably overshare. There's probably stuff that I don't want out there that's already out there, and it's already too late. You know, people can probably manipulate their faces to be on whatever they want it to be because they've seen it once. I don't know. It's sort of
That's a weird, it's a
battle. Yeah.
weird world that we live in, and I think you're right. I think it's not gone away, but that's for sure. Ben, let me go back, and this is probably difficult to talk about, but let me go back to March 18th, 2001. In Indonesia, I've been to Southeast Asia. We've lost count the amount of times Westlife have been there. We're a hugely successful band, as you guys are, in Southeast Asia. I remember our first touchdown, specifically in Jakarta in Indonesia. The army or stroke police had to take us from the Cathay Pacific or British Airways or Virgin Air, whatever we'd flown in from London on. They took us from the plane. We couldn't go through the terminal. It was all private stuff. Then I remember another time going through the terminal and thousands upon thousands of people at the arrivals. Scary. We lost everything. We lost caps, watches, rings, you name it. It was Beatle mania. Again, pre-social media. I'm sure BMG, Sony have video footage of this. Obviously, I know they do. Every time we went back, and what it is now, as I sit here, 46 years of age, I look back nostalgic. I go, "What? It was absolutely crazy." But we still go back and do stadiums and big, huge tours of Southeast Asia. In fact, would you believe yesterday I saw a map of the world and 8 billion people. I saw 4 billion in Southeast Asia, stroke China and Japan, in that little pocket of the world. And the other 4 billion makes up the rest. America, Russia, Australia, Europe, you name it. So like, it's a good part of the world from a pop star's perspective or a singer's perspective to be big in, because nostalgia's kicked in all these years later. You guys tour a lot there. We tour a lot there. Anyway, to go back to when this was breaking for you and you guys and us, we had done these signings at these shopping centres that were absolutely chaotic, that were, scary, like that. There was no air conditioning, and there was thousands of people would turn up, and you wouldn't get through them all, and you try and you'd be rushed. And I don't remember where we were, but I remember hearing the news that that there'd been a massive tragedy in Jakarta. You guys had done a signing, and there'd been a stampede or a crush, and 4 young teenagers, A1 fans, had sadly lost their lives. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that.
No, it's that's not why you set out to be in a band, to cause any kind of harm to anybody, and to find out that has happened is sort of beyond shocking. I mean, it's kind of hard to recall exactly the sort of emotions from, I guess, when anybody kind of suffers any kind of trauma. And by the way, this is obviously the most traumatic for the families of the girls that lost their lives. I'm not sitting here sort of saying boo-hoo me or whatever, but it's still something that I've been part of. And all I can remember, it's a little bit of a blur, but all I can remember is that we'd obviously, as you say, been doing these tours of Southeast Asia, and we'd never been to Indonesia before. So we didn't know if we were big or not, and I don't think the record company realized or didn't know that we would be that popular over there. So we were doing, signings, and we'd just gone to this, and it was the same as every other signing we would normally do. We would it was all going to be set up that we'd walk in and then the back of the store and sit at the front. But then when we got out of the van, it was a different kind of desperation from the fans there than we'd experienced before. Like, they were, as you say, it wasn't just they didn't want like an autograph or to touch our hands. They wanted like a piece of us. Like, they were ripping our clothes and ripping our hair and scratching our face and all that kind of stuff. So it was actually just the walk from the van to the back of the HMV store was a bit terrifying for us, but I guess a bit exciting as well, because it was a bit like, what is this? I mean, this is something we've been big everywhere, but this is like a different level of stuff.
This is like I know, because it's like, for us, it was like, this is what the Beatles, the Osmonds, all the bands that before I was alive, this is it. This is the chaoticness that they experienced.
Exactly. So it's sort of, it's scary, but it's also quite exciting because you're just like, oh my God, like this is like we've made it. Like this is incredible. But anyway, so we sort of go in there and sort of reassemble our clothes and stuff like that, and then we just go about it like we would any other signing. So we walk, to the front to the tables where they've set up all the pens and papers, and we sit down, and then more and more people keep sort of coming, and we can, I guess, sort of looking up, we can see that more and more people are coming and squashing against the glass. But nobody around us is looking panicked or anything. So we were like, okay, well, I guess this is what happens here. And then the next thing I think 3 minutes later, our security guy just says, we have to go, and we have to go now. I'm like, okay, well, we still don't know what's going on, but sure, let's go. So we get up, we go out the back, and so what it transpires had happened was that there was such like a push from the crowds who were desperate because we were leaving, that two girls got crushed against the front of the shop window. And then because they knew that we were going out the back, there was then a panic to get around out of the shopping mall to get around to the back where our coach was. And then two more girls got trampled on the escalator on the way down. We didn't know this at the time. Obviously, we just saw that it was a very kind of chaotic scenario. And then we get in the bus, and the record company take us off to the next TV that we were scheduled to do. We do the TV, still, smiling, laughing, being A1, or, just doing what we would normally do on a TV show. And then when we got back to the dressing room, that was when we were told the news of what had happened. And, the girls had obviously died. And it didn't really feel real. It was very like, it was like someone telling you the plot of a movie and saying, well, this has happened. And we're going, oh, okay. And sort of trying to take it in and go like, oh, right. Well, what do we do now? And then they basically said, well, we have to get you out of the country, because they weren't sure of how people would react, whether it be the media or just the general public or the families or anything. So they're like, we have to get you out. So we went back to our hotel and we're packing. And the American embassy were basically gonna not smuggle us out of the country, but we just had to get out of the country because they weren't sure how anything was going to be. But then a very strange thing happened, and I think the lady, the representative from Sony at the time, came up to us and said, before you leave, two of the girls' families would like you to go and visit their home. I just don't know.
Do you respect or?
Well, I'm not sure why. Like, it was so soon after it happened, but I guess I don't know whether the whole family was such massive fans, or like it just felt like a very bizarre kind of request to. I mean, who knows what would go through your mind if that kind of stuff had happened, or maybe you just maybe there would be some closure in seeing the people that I don't know. But anyway, it was decided that we wouldn't do that and that we just had to get out. So we went through the basement of the hotel, got in blacked out vans, went to the airport, and then went straight home. And it was we were kind of protected, I guess, by people because we were still very young. About what
age were you?
Oh God! So what year was it? Then we'd have to do some math.
2001.
2001. I'm sure someone watching can do the math. But it was God, it was way over
20.
Yeah, I don't know.
19.
Young enough for people to want to protect us, I guess. And then I just remember the first time it actually really hit home what had happened, because we were still a bit like thinking, well, this sounds just so crazy that and we're in a totally different country, like everything is crazy. Was when I got back home and they printed on the front of the papers the pictures of the four girls lying next to each other in the morgue, and that's when it really hit home, and I was like, this really happened. Like this isn't. I'm not part of a movie here. This is like like it really hit home. And like for a long time after that, like none of us could do anything. We took like a very long break. And that was a obviously you'd have to do it as a sign of respect, but just for us as well, like for that to happen, that was not what we got into the industry for. And just the fact that, thinking, oh, well, if our band wasn't there, that would never have happened. But, do you know what I mean? All these things, and that you sort of start looking for who to blame and pointing fingers. And, the record company all paid for and sorted out like some therapy sessions for us all and stuff, just so we could kind of process what it was. And that was, I mean, that was like really, we just had like, some of our biggest hits. So we were really like on a catapulting upwards trajectory. But it was for us, it was like, well, we can't possibly carry on in good faith here. We're just not ready mentally for this at all. And then it wasn't for a very, very long time, probably, I don't know, a year or something like that, when we actually got back together and we were like, right, do we want to continue doing this? And if we are going to do this, what is it that we actually want to do? Do we want to carry on doing what we're doing? Are we happy doing that? Can we actually stand behind ourselves as a band doing that kind of music? Or what would we like to do? And that's when we started experimenting and came up with a sort of more, I guess, musical route than what we had before. And that's where, that's where the likes of Caught in the Middle were born and stuff. And that's when we kind of regrouped and represented ourselves as the band that we wanted to be, rather than the band that we'd ended up being. I guess a lot of our fans wanted us to still be the sort of squeaky clean pop band that danced around and did all the Take On Me stuff, but we wanted to be a bit more credible and just to go out there and think, okay, well, if we're going out there and these things can happen, it should really be for something that we absolutely love and can 100% put our hearts behind. Obviously taking every precaution that and nothing like that would ever happen again. And that's where the sort of the ship kind of steered, and that's why our music kind of sounds very different from the first two albums than it did on the third. But yeah, that was
That's I mean, you speak about it so honestly, Ben, but it's tough. I mean, I can't imagine what effect that has. What did your parents back home say when all this is going on, or what does Tim say, or what does during the break, how do you process that? Did it affect you?
Well, I mean, of course it did a bit. It still felt like, because we didn't see it happen, and even to this day, I guess, because I didn't see it happen, it's just something that I've been told has happened. There is a part of me that feels like it's not real, so it's hard to process something that you haven't seen. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to see things to believe it. I'm not religious in the slightest, because I would need proof that there was a God. I'd need to see him and to have a conversation or whatever to actually know. And I feel like that with most things in life. I'm very, very realistic and so like that. And that's still something that I know it happened, but it's hard to sort of wrap my head around quite how to process it.
When you go back to Indonesia, is that what's on your mind, every time, or,
I think it's a mixture of feelings. I mean, it's always sort of tagged on to a tour of other places. But of course, when we go back to Indonesia in particular, I mean, now we were always very hot on, I tell you, like, we weren't hot on security. Other people were very hot on security, making sure there was enough people there to make sure that everybody was safe, etc., etc. But now we are very much like, we want to see how many people there are versus how many people are here. How many tickets have you sold? Are you overselling this yet? We're much more meticulous on, I mean, things can happen wherever you are, but just doing as much as we can and taking more of an interest on that side of things than just turning up and doing the concert and singing songs. We want to know that there is an element of safety, particularly in those countries, because as you say, there are so many people in such a small land mass. So of course there's going to be overcrowding. There's going to be things that happen.
We saw the concert actually ourselves when it was a standing show in Indonesia. Before we split up, probably I think it might have even been the farewell tour, and we stopped it halfway through because we felt
something's up.
It just looked at you know yourself. You didn't know because you couldn't see, and it wasn't a concert where you can see everything. You were obviously what happened tragically for you guys was something beyond what you could see. But we were at a concert one night in Jakarta, and we just knew that that there was it felt like there was too many people on the floor standing. So we stopped it a number of times until that was rectified. But that comes again with experience and like that too. It could happen anywhere. Did you ever meet any of the families since? Did you ever speak to any of them or?
No, I didn't, and it does. Of course, we just went to Indonesia, and it always crosses my mind. I always think like, I wonder what they're doing now, because somewhere, there are families that still don't have a daughter. I have my own kids now. My life has kind of moved on as a whole, and they are still there without their daughter. So I can't even imagine.
They were sisters as well. Two of the girls were sisters, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's tragic for all of them, but that scenario is even worse. But it's I'm not sure. I don't know. Nobody's tried to reach out. And if they did, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It is a strange one, but it is something that we very much feel every time we go back to Indonesia, and we do have great concerts in Indonesia every time we go back, but it's definitely somewhere that we do think twice about going, because we're like,
it might be nice one of the future trips to meet their moms.
I don't even know how to reach out. Do you know what I mean? Like how would you reach out? I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to do that, or even if it would be appropriate. I get. Who knows how people deal with grief? I've seen people lose lots of people, and some people like to embrace it and live with it and be reminded. Other people like to move on, and it's too painful to revisit and stuff like that. And who am I to sort of?
Yeah, I get that.
Poke the bear, or you know what I mean? Like it's not for me to reach out to them. I don't think. I think if they wanted to, they are quite welcome to. I'm quite available to, as we're talking about social media, like people can get in touch with me if they want to. But no one has. So it's not my place to do that, I don't think.
Westlife are well known there too, and I suppose we have to say that if anyone ever hears this or watches this, that we, offer all condolences to the families. And I know it was 2001, but still, that must be a pain and a hurt that just never goes away for that family. It has to be for all those families.
Absolutely. I mean, if I can just take how I feel about it, which is a little speck in the ocean in comparison, I can't even imagine. So yeah. Absolutely.
Right. The reunion, but before the reunion, you as a solo, when you broke up, actually when Paul left, Brian left. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of why people leave bands. I know many different reasons why people leave bands, but was that something where you thought, oh God, we're kind of snookered here now? Or did you feel, we can still go on as three?
I felt that we could go on as a three, and I think we'd had talks about doing that. But in all honesty, I think Christian fancied moving back home to Norway because he was Norwegian. Because we'd been touring for a long time. It felt like maybe the natural point for a bit of a break, because we just had Caught in the Middle out, and it was still being played everywhere. So if we were going to have a break, it felt like a good time to go out on a high rather than see what happens as a three. And I think when there is some kind of instability in a band, you know, it costs millions to put these projects together and each single together. You know, I guess there was some sort of question mark over how solid the band was and how it was going to happen and stuff like that. And I could already see like budgets for videos being questioned a bit more heavily and stuff like that. So I think we just all took a decision that actually, if we were going to have a break, let's do it now. It's probably a good time. We can revisit it, you know, at another time. But you know, let's just see what it's like to not be in the band.
And how was that for you?
That was weird. I mean, it was like being retired at the age of, I don't know what I was, 22, 23. You know, I'd gone through my whole kid life having, you know, exams and a structure. And then I had gone through A1 where it was all completely mapped out for me. And then I just looked at the rest of, you know, my diary, completely empty. And I thought, what do I do? I don't know. I don't know what do I do? But I mean, it was the furthest from my mind anyway, doing anything. I was like, all right, great. Now I can party. Now I can go out and I don't have to get up tomorrow. How brilliant is that? So that's what I did. I think for the next 4 or 5 years, I just partied and I had fun. And I became really great friends with Craig David, and we just traveled everywhere together. We went to Saint Tropez, to Miami, to God knows where, but everywhere.
He wrote that song about you. Took him for a drink on Monday.
That was before, yeah. Well, we were making love by Wednesday there, so don't think it was about me because that didn't happen. But yeah, no, we just made great friends. I think we ended up just finding ourselves in a similar kind of position, wanting to do the same thing as them. So just for a few years, we just partied. We just traveled, just had fun. Basically.
Isn't it weird though when the phone doesn't ring, when the emails don't come in from the label, from you gotta be here, and you're like, you're delighted, and then you go, is this, like you said, retired at 20? We were lucky because we got to 34 and then we retired, if you like, from the first time around. But it is strange. It's very strange.
Well, the only time I realized that was when I'd sort of, I think we'd gone on for, you know, a few years doing this. And then it was when I sat there and I thought, you know, I think it was like we were sitting in a penthouse in Miami on New Year's Eve. We were sitting there going like, I've had a lot of fun for the last few years, and I've spent a lot of money. What do I do? Like, what am I doing? Like, what should I do? And then when I started trying to pick up the phone, then to all the people that I used to know, and they weren't so interested in chatting because, you know, A1 was a few years ago, or whatever, and they were on to the next flavor of the month. Then I found it weird because then I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. I've actually got to like work here. I just kind of fell into this, and now the hard graft kind of starts. And that was when I didn't know. I mean, back then I'd written all of the songs, but I hadn't produced any of the songs. So we had a great producer called Mike Hedges who did all of like U2 and Manic Street Preachers and stuff like that. He produced the last album with Caught in the Middle on it and stuff. And so I called him and I was like, look, what have you got in your studio? And he gave me a list of stuff and I just bought everything. And I remember sitting there with it and I didn't know how any of it worked. Nothing. It's not like now where you sit on a computer and it's all just in front of you. It was like proper hardware, like so many knobs I've never seen, you know, unbelievable. Like I was like, I don't know how any of this works. So I spent the next few years inviting people into my studio that weren't big artists or weren't were completely unknown, but they would come in and they'd pay like a nominal fee of whatever because they wanted to get a track with someone that had success or whatever. And I didn't know how to produce, so I basically just learnt every single piece of that studio by getting other people to pay to come into the studio for me to kind of learn it with them. So they end up with the song. Some of the early ones were probably awful. I've purposefully forgotten those songs, I think, but then I just got better and better and better. And actually now it's really done me a great service because, you know, back then when you're working with people that can't sing and they really aren't supposed to be pop stars and have absolutely no hope, but you still have to try and make them sound good. You know, I can make somebody who can't sing a note sound pretty okay. So if I'm working with somebody half decent, I can make them sound amazing. So actually, like all the graft and all the crappy work I did. Sorry if I worked with you back then and you're watching this now, and you're thinking it's you. But I did.
You want to give us any names of who you're talking about?
No. I can't remember the names, to be honest with you. But it was a lot of hard graft there. And then eventually, when I was good enough, people actually started wanting to work with me again. And yeah, I started working with some great people.
And was your studio then, Ben, was that in England or Norway, or where were you?
Yeah, that was in England. I've only lived in Norway for 4 years.
Okay.
It's
Is that love? Is that how that happened?
Yes, of course. I met my wife many years ago. Like I think it's our 16th anniversary or something coming up.
Oh, is it? That's right.
But well, I mean, in December, I say coming up. It's coming up. Actually, I don't even know what date it is, but she's going to kill me. But yeah, no. The move to Norway was basically like we lived in England for the first 10 years of our relationship, and she lived with me over there. And then Corona came around, and she'd always wanted to kind of move back home. So I bought like a small apartment in Norway because I was touring with. I think I met you actually with when I was touring with Flashdance. Then we came into a radio station in Ireland.
Yeah, I was hosting 2FM here in Ireland. Yeah.
With Joanne Clifton. But yeah, so I bought this small place in Norway because I was touring so much. So sort of kind of like, okay, well, we'll buy this place over there so that when I stop touring, we can actually spend some more time in Norway. And then when Corona came around and everything was shut down, it started not being quite as shut down in Norway. So there were no flights or anything like that. So myself and Sarah just jumped in my car and we drove all the way from the UK to Norway through all the borders. And we were like, we don't even know if we're going to get stopped or if we get allowed. I guess we're allowed to do all of this because you're allowed to travel in that capacity. And then we drove to Norway, and then we were kind of stuck here in that teeny tiny flat that I bought for the entire Corona duration. And then after, I just thought it was the most amazing place. I mean, if you can see the view, I think I'm half looking at you, half looking, and like I'm just looking over the sea here and so like that. It's so amazing.
I've seen, like I said earlier, I've seen your Instagram. It's spectacular, your view. I've always wondered, that's your house? Look, like, is that near Oslo? Where that's part of Norway I would know. Obviously, I've never really been into the mountains, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I live. I think you've part seen. I got a house up in the mountains, and that's like on a lake. It's like the most incredible mountain view. And then Sarah always wanted to live by the sea, so we lived in the center of Oslo. Because I'm quite used to living in London, where everything, is happening and stuff. So we basically went to view some houses on this island called Nessoya. And this was when I still had my house back in London that was just empty. And I saw this house right on the sea. It had its own beach, everything like that. And I was like, sell everything. I have to move to this island. This is I don't care about anything. Get rid of everything. And then it took me a year to sell the house in London because obviously Corona, people couldn't go and view it. Blah, blah, blah. It took me a year. That house had gone. So then I was like, okay, well, let's just buy like an apartment in the center of Oslo. So we lived on I guess the equivalent of like King's Road or Oxford Street or, whatever, like right in the center, like on my balcony, I could just see the whole world go by. And I thought to myself, if I ever find a house on that island that has a view like that, I have to get it immediately. So my mum came over and I hadn't seen her for a while. And this was quite recently. This was like middle of last year. And I was like, what do you want to do today? She said, I really fancy going to IKEA and getting some meatballs. I was like, all right, sure, we're going to do that. So then we went to do that. And IKEA is quite close to where this island is. And it's like 10 minutes outside of Oslo. And I was on it's called Finn over here. It's like where you can look at houses or buy whatever it is. And there was this house that was for viewing. And I said, Mum, do you want to go and view this house just for fun? She went, yeah, why not? And as soon as I walked in here, I was just like, I had to pretend, obviously, to the estate agent that I didn't like it, so that he wasn't like, "Oh, it's a done deal. We can charge him a lot." I was like, "No, I'm not sure," but I knew. I was like, this is like my dream house. It hadn't been decorated since the 80s, anything like that, which was perfect for me because I like smashing things out and starting again. And actually, you see my Instagram and stuff, which you obviously have. It's mostly renovation. There's me, sledgehammer, and just smashing the whole place out. And now it's actually starting to look a bit nicer. But yeah, it's incredible. I feel very lucky every morning I wake up here and just look out on the sea and the boats and everything. It's amazing. You have to come over, bring your family.
Yeah, congratulations. Listen, you're selling it to me. I've seen the pictures, like I said, but yeah, congratulations. I'm delighted when I hear something like that. You know, you're happy, you're healthy, got some lovely kids, your wife.
Yeah.
And what have you?
I literally think, I'm so happy with whatever that, however I've got here, I just wouldn't change a thing. I'm just, I wake up every morning thinking like, who lives like this? This is like amazing. I mean, it's so amazing that you can see that as through this podcast, it gets darker and darker here. It's so fresh, this renovation. I don't have any lights. I'm relying on the computer screen.
That was your way of going, Nikki, I'm going to start turning the lights down here to...
No, turn it down. No, I don't have any lights. So
shows that view again. Shows that view. Is that the action? Can you see?
Yeah, that's what I look at. Can you see it? A bit
Yeah.
blurry.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I pinch myself all the time.
But Norway we've been there a lot with Westlife. We did the Spectrum Arena, if it's still called that now, many years, many times. We did the Geese Prize there as well back in the day a couple of times. Met Barack Obama actually in one of the years there. But yeah, I always love Norway. It's it's clean, it's fresh.
And it's very safe as well.
It's better.
For kids, it's like, when we lived in London, we lived in a lovely area of London, but I don't know, like, it's in fact, so I've just turned my phone light on so you can actually see my face.
You're still not Spansible Mail. Look, you're still. That's it. I know you do. I can't show it off, aren't you?
I'll have to dig out the award to really feel like it. But no, it's just such a nice. I couldn't imagine my kids going out on the bike on their own in the centre of London where I lived. So, I mean, this is the kind of place I can really envisage, them just taking themselves off, going and seeing their friends around the corner, that kind of stuff, and having that kind of lifestyle. I never had that kind of lifestyle. But it's funny when you see kids, and I guess it's the same with your kids. But they don't know how lucky they are. Like, I try and say to I know they're very young, but I say to my daughter who's 3 all the time, like, we're looking at this. This is amazing, isn't it? She's going, yeah, I see the sea. I'm like, no, like people don't live like this. This is incredible. And like trying to kind of teach them I don't know, like I not to say, oh, this house is so big. My friend's is quite small. I don't want to go there. That kind of thing. I'm like, no. How do you stop them saying?
Take control of the numbers and supercharge your small business with Xero. That's Xero. With our easy-to-use accounting software with automation and reporting features, you'll spend less time on manual tasks and more time understanding how your business is doing. 87% of surveyed U.S. customers agree Xero helps improve financial visibility. Search Xero with an X or visit Xero.com/ACAST to start your 30-day free trial. Conditions apply.
BetterHelp Online Therapy bought this 30-second ad to remind you right now, wherever you are, to unclench your jaw. Relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath in and out. Feels better, right? That's 15 seconds of self-care. Imagine what you could do with more. Visit BetterHelp.com/randompodcast for 10% off your first month of therapy. No pressure, just help. But for now, just relax.
Saying that kind of stuff, like give them some, not turn them into monsters, but yeah, no, it's
still the proper values, I guess, and
yeah,
not
exactly.
everything like this is normal. It's going to be tough though, Ben. It's going to be tough. There's no doubt about that, because kids nowadays, and everything is on the phone, as we said, everything's instant. Everything is. I always say, as humans, we're quite gluttonous, because if you like football, well, all of a sudden it's on every day of the week. If you like fast food, it's everywhere all day. You name it. So it's That's the way just where the human race is. Two more things before I let you go. I want to speak to you about Eurovision. 2022 was when Subwoofer came to town. This was, for people who don't know, this was The Masked Singer by 1,000,000%. Black suits, white shirts, black ties, yellow masks, black shades with the high kind of ears. And these two lads with dancers in similar outfits jumping around the stage to a song called, you'll have to forgive me if I get this wrong, Give the Grandma a Banana, Take the Grandma's Banana. What was it?
Don't pretend you don't know what it is. It's called Give That Wolf a Banana.
Give the Wolf a Banana.
I mean,
Ben, you've wrote some brilliant songs.
Listen.
What the hell is this one?
Right, okay. This was the weirdest project I've ever been involved with, and it basically goes like this. So for Eurovision, and they call it MGP over here, so they do like preliminary rounds. It's not just, I know in the UK, I guess Ireland, they have the preliminary.
Well, we change it every National Song Contest historically.
You did it, yeah.
No, so what I did was it was just chosen by RTE, our national broadcaster. Right. They have the obviously ability and power to pick somebody or go to a public vote on a national television show over here called The Late Late Show. But I know what you're speaking of, because in Sweden they do Melody Festival, and don't they, the big...
Exactly. So it's the same thing, and it's Melody Grand Prix over here. So I went to a writing session to write for other artists for this, which I'd done couple of times in previous years, and being the songwriter and producer behind the artists that are going out to compete. And this day the brief came in, and they said the brief was write the most ridiculous song you could possibly think of. And that was the brief for the day. So I get put in with these two songwriters. We usually have an artist in with us in every session, but this particular day we didn't have an artist in either. One of the other guys is also an artist in his own right, but he was also there to write songs for other people, not to be a potential person that would compete for MGP. Okay. So I think we were all a bit bummed out that we didn't have an artist, and we just, okay, this is what a waste of a day is this going to be. So we sit there, and I just start writing the most ridiculous lyrics I can ever think of. I mean, the verse goes, the lyrics are, not sure I told you, but I really like your teeth. Oh God, I can't remember the bloody lyrics now. Hold on, we got to play this somewhere. Not sure I told you, but not sure I told you, but I really like your teeth. That hairy coat of yours with something underneath. Not sure you have a name, so I will call you Keith. I will call you Keith. Like, what a ridiculous lyric, but it made me laugh. So I was like, okay, fine. And then the second end of the verse ends with, if you don't like the name Keith, I'm going to call you Jim. It's totally stupid. So anyway, long and the short of it, we'd written this song, and I called my wife, and she was like, how'd it go? And I was like, that was just, what a waste of life. Like, why? I don't know why I do these writing camps sometimes. Like, I wish I could take that day back. So anyway, NRK is like the equivalent of the BBC. Kind of make noise that they really like the song, like really like it. And we're like, okay, but that's fine, but we don't have an artist for it. And so they said, well, we want you to do it. And I was like, me? I'm not going to do it. Like, Give That Wolf a Banana. Like, that is like a career suicide. Like, of course I would never, ever, ever do that. And then they kept coming back. I think they came back 3 more times. And like, listen, just, is there a way that you would do it? And they went, what about if you wore masks? And I went, masks. Okay, let's have a think. But I was like, well, what kind of masks? And they said, just write an idea, and just we'll see if it's going to work. So again, I just sat there and I wrote the most stupid thing. I was like, all right, it's Yellow Wolves. We're from space. We're brothers called Keith and Jim. We've got a friend who's an astronaut, who's a DJ. There you go. What about that? And they went, and the more stupid ideas I came up with, the more they were just like, yeah, cool. Yeah, absolutely. So basically I wrote myself into doing this song with masks. I didn't even know what the masks were going to look like. So that was a whole episode in itself. Because obviously if it just looked so terrible, or people knew it was me, it was game over. But then what happened was that, the song was actually a very catchy song, which is obviously why they liked it. And then the masks started to look quite cool. And the outfits and the styling that they were doing all over it was all very, very sort of high quality and very well done. I still didn't want people to know it was me because obviously, as I said before, it's like the end of your career, really, doing a song like that. So we played along with this, and the press over here, they're not like the UK press, where they hound people, whoever. They're quite respectful, but they started acting a bit more like tabloid journalists. So they were following our cars. They were, going to places where they thought that we lived and stuff like that, and trying to take paparazzi snaps and stuff like that. And so we played along with the game. And we were sort of putting out press releases. Maybe we were picking the most famous Norwegian
Morten Harket.
Maybe it's Morten Harket. Maybe it's Alan Walker. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's Ylvis, who did What Did the Fox Say? All those. So we were the media.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
It could have been anybody, but the media storm was like they were just pumping this out daily on who it could be. So we were just playing along. And then, we managed to win this MGP. And I thought, oh, Lord, now I actually have to go to Eurovision. This was never the plan. It's never been my dream to go to Eurovision. But all right, cool. Let's go and do it. And it was the weirdest experience I've ever had. Because, going over there, and we took it very seriously. We went on the plane with like visors on and everything. Nobody knew who we were. We didn't speak to a single artist throughout the whole thing. Our interviews, we didn't speak as characters. I just had to create this character called Keith, and I was just throwing stuff around the room. It was quite liberating, actually, because I could do whatever I wanted. I could literally tip up a bin in the middle of an interview or smash something, and I didn't care because nobody knew that it was me. And I would even do interviews with people that I know very well from back, like Rylan and Scott Mills, all the people that do all the Eurovision stuff. And I'd be sitting next to them. Obviously, I know who they are. I'm not allowed to talk to them. They don't know who I am. And I'm sitting next to people that I know very well.
That is
pretending that it's not me. It was just really bizarre. So anyway, we do it, and then because the whole project went really well, and it was no longer something that was sort of something to be embarrassed about, and it done like 100 million streams in a very short space of time. It was actually probably the biggest song that I've written in recent years, which is crazy when you think about that, really. So actually it became something to be proud of. So after a while, I thought, well, why am I doing all of this work and not actually getting any recognition for it? So we decided the next MGP that we would actually reveal ourselves as to who we were. Probably disappointing millions of people who thought it was Morten Harket and Ole.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Was your name ever attached to it? If you know,
yeah, of course, we were always in the mix, but we were picking much bigger celebrities than we were. So of course, like there was much more written about it being one of them. We were picking like Norwegian megastars. So
and then when you actually performed on the night, it comes up to songwriters. What did it say? Did you give a fake name?
It said Keith and Jim and DJ Astronaut, and we had to, there's obviously the PRS and stuff like that that you have to go through. We'd managed to get it through PRS that the money would still come to me, but it would go through Keith to get paid to an anonymous person who was me. So it was all actually, they all played along with the joke. It was quite a clever.
And did Subwoofer, did they do any other gigs that earn money outside? Did you have a career is what I'm saying? Separate to your...
We still do gigs. We still do gigs. But although now we get booked and they want me to take the mask off halfway through and then carry on a set of my own A1 songs. So we had like...
That costs more money.
It does cost more money. That's right. But it's been an amazing project. I've written 2 children's books of Subwoofer that have been like massive successes over here as well. It's sort of the gift that just keeps on giving, really. But the very, very weird thing, I did sit there and just, there is a realization when you sit there and go, I'm a 43-year-old man dressing up as a wolf. I just can't. And then I presented the year afterwards where you give the numbers out for Norway or whatever.
Yeah,
But I did it as me with
votes.
with
Yeah.
with Subwoofer Keith's head beside me. And I think I confused a lot of English people because obviously in Norway it had been a big reveal, but in the UK or anywhere else that had ever followed A1, they were just like, "Why is Ben from A1 standing next to Subwoofer Mask?" Like them, I think quite a few minds were blown.
And who is the other guy, the other singer?
He is a very famous Norwegian artist over here. So
Right.
he's very well known. Not internationally, so that was quite fun for him as well to have some sort of international. But on the actual show, if anybody can be bothered to go and rewatch it, because he can't dance, he is in the DJ outfit at the back singing, standing still, and we have a dancer in for the other wolf. So,
Right.
and the other wolf, and it's actually a really interesting project because anybody can actually get into these wolf masks,
Yeah.
and do the concert. So there have been times that I can't do the concert because I'm.
I was going to say that you could send the two wolves around the world. No one knows us.
I've literally sent like friends of mine who are dancers because I've been doing an A1 concert or whatever, and I'm like, well, the gig still needs to go ahead, so I've sent people in place for me because they know all the routines. I mean, and I've also we did a I can't remember what the show's called, but it was a Jimmy Carr Christmas show in the UK. It was like their main one on Christmas Day or whatever.
Right.
The other guy couldn't make it because he had another show somewhere else. So I said to my wife, I was like, "Do you fancy coming to England?" And everyone, they'll pay for it, everything like that. And I said, "Oh yeah, sure. Why? What are we doing?" I was like, "Subwoofer has a gig." The only thing is, how do you feel about jumping into a wolf outfit? And so she sort of thought about it for a while, and she did. So, there are clips. It was, it was the main Christmas TV show, and it was me and my wife.
That is fantastic.
Doing "Give That Wolf a Banana" on English TV. It's the most surreal, weird project I've ever.
Man, I have an idea, right? You can now shop that idea, right, onto say Norwegian TV at Christmas time or at whatever New Year's big TV show, and you can go, right, two celebrities are going to be like the Masked Singer. Two celebrities are well known are going to be in these wolf outfits. They're going to perform the song. You've got to guess. I can do. You teach me the routine. I'll be over there, and then we can unmask. It's the guy from Westlife.
Done it. Perfect, dude. I mean, I think you've given the game away now, to be honest with you. But hopefully, they won't be listening to this podcast. But I'm always up for a money making scheme. Let's do it.
Brilliant. All right, before we go, Ben, there's one thing just real quickly before I want to ask you about a boy band, putting the boy band together that I always ask everybody. But real quickly, when it must have been really happy for Paul to come back for the 25th, for all four of you to get back. How do those conversations start? Who's the first one to go? I'll call him, or should we call him? How does that happen?
Well, we did a program called The Big Reunion, where a whole bunch of pop acts got back together.
I remember that actually. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is we'd been a three-piece for a few years previously, touring all over the place. So us being part of the show was a bit weird because they were saying like, "Oh, how does it feel meeting up again?" And we were like, "Well, we saw a show last weekend," and they're like, "No, stop. We have to do this question again." So it was a bit strange. But then after a while, we were going to do another big tour of like Asia, and promoters are always thinking, of new ways. Is there a new album that we can attach it to? Is there a, whatever it is? And I think our promoter that was doing this there said it would be really great if we could actually market this as, the return of the full lineup. And I know, Paul previously had not wanted to be part of the Big Reunion, and he'd left the band because he didn't want to be in the spotlight or anything like that. So we kind of sat there and thought about it. We're like, well, it wouldn't actually harm just asking and seeing how he feels about it. And I kind of touched base with him because he lives up north in England, and I was doing musical theatre tours of, I think it was Rocky Horror Picture Show at the time. And I called when I was near where he lives, which is, I think, in Sunderland. And I was like, "Do you want to just come along? I haven't spoken to you for ages. Come along to the show, see the show. It'd be nice to hang out and, whatever." So we kind of touched base, and then I sort of planted the seed, and I was like, it'd be really fun. Like, we're having a really great time as a band. Actually, more fun now because we're older than we did back then, because we can, we make up our own schedule. We don't have to work when we don't want to work, and no one else is making this up for us. It's on our own terms. Is this something that you would be interested in doing? And I think it took a bit of convincing, because he'd been out of the limelight for so long by then. I mean, he'd been out of the band longer than he was ever in it. But then eventually he agreed to do it. And then we went on our first Asia tour, and we'd gone to the airport. We'd gone to the bar before we got on the plane, and me and him had probably sunk about 6 or 7 very strong IPA beers, and I don't think he was used to drinking that kind of volumes. He didn't make it onto the plane. He fell asleep at the check-in counter, and we were just, it's obvious, of course that was going to happen. Of course, why did we ask him back? Blah, blah, blah. But I just got him so drunk that he didn't make the plane. Anyway, that's he got on the next plane and then eventually made it. But yeah, that was quite a funny moment.
I can imagine everybody waiting for you to land, the promoters, everybody, the fans going, the 4 of them for the first time in 25. No, there's only 3 of them.
We didn't know he was coming, because we got off the plane. Obviously, we hadn't had our phones on, so our managers back in the UK were running around trying to find him and all that kind of stuff. And he'd obviously fallen asleep. So we were on the plane, just like bitching about him for like 18 hours or whatever, going, I can't believe of course he's let us down, blah, 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 blah. So we didn't know he was coming. So when we got off the plane, we didn't know what to say. They were like, where's Paul? We're like, let's get in the van, kind of thing. It was only like when we got to the hotel, we realized what had happened, and someone told us from the UK, and that he was actually on his way. So yeah, but it's been great since he's been back. And I think a lot of people, when you're sort of I guess you can call it being part of a nostalgia wave, just to see like the fans when they come to our shows, it's a bit like a release for everybody, because they can, for an hour and a half or whatever it is, they can just forget that they have their responsibilities and their kids and their bills and everything like that, and they just transport themselves back to being 13 again.
Yeah, and
exactly.
That's right. It's right, because they put themselves back where they were in their teenage years, their bedrooms with the pictures on the walls, and this is a night out to relive all those moments again.
We always, everybody just has such a great time, and I mean, it's 26 years I've been, and you as well, but we've been doing this now, and I think that's pretty crazy. And I do, some people say when they see us touring the town, like, yeah, but how long is it gonna last, kind of thing. And I kind of think, well, for as long as there are all of that age group out there who want that kind of release and want to sort of go back to their youth and experience, have like a nostalgia trip, then long may it continue. Why does it have to end? It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing gift that we've all been given.
Do you know what always makes me laugh, actually, when you see bands reuniting and then to be a story about it, and you see comments, and I know we know better than to read comments, but you see comments that go, they almost be skint, they almost have spent all their money, and it's like, well, is everybody supposed to work for free? I don't understand somebody going, they almost be skint. What if they're not skint and they just enjoy doing it? Or what if they're skint and they want to? Or those people who are writing those comments, you're like, yeah, but you get up every day and go to work and earn money. Why does somebody go halfway across the world, do concerts, and only do it because for money? It's just,
I mean, you're always going to get people like that, and always cynical people. And I mean, to be honest, I guess you've done the same. I was such a thick skin now. Like I wish I could give some of my thick skin to other people, and to my wife and whatever, because I just do not care what people say, what people think, as long as I know that I'm being a nice human being, doing the best I can to make people happy and blah, blah, blah. I just do not care. So literally, if I see people writing anything remotely bad about me or my family, I just block them straight away. Off they go. I couldn't care less. So, I mean, I know that's hard to do for some people because they're very. I mean, I've just started managing this girl band, and so I'm sort of seeing it first through their kind of young eyes, and people are brutal. Like they say the most awful things about the way they look or their figure or anything like that, and it really affects them. They really connect. They're like feel like personally attacked, and I don't know whether it's age or just because I've been doing this a long time. I just don't have that feeling. I just don't care.
You're right. I'd be very similar to you. And what really, really, really I find so ironic, a lot of people who say things are the very same people who previously will have put up a post saying, be kind. Or when something terrible has happened, like the sad passing of, say, Caroline Flack, or the big Be Kind move of that time. Or then I remember somebody, when I was hosting on the radio, getting a picture with I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there was a person came on, sports person came on the show, took a picture with me after the show, put it up on their Facebook page. There was me and my co-presenter and this person. And one of the comments was, can't believe you got a picture with that Muppet. I remember thinking, right, okay, that's fair enough. I knew it wasn't my co-presenter because she was brilliant and everybody loved her. So I knew it had to be me, right? And I went into would you believe, I clicked on this person's Facebook page who'd made this comment. That person was sitting at a desk, right, with a poster on the desk saying, Darkness into Light, which is a very famous mental health walk prevention for suicide. And the comments were, we can make a change. We can help. We can change. More or less, be better, do better, be kind. We'll all in this together. I'm thinking, what, does my mental health not matter though?
Yeah. But I think people, well, if you're any type of celebrity or a well-known person, I think a lot of people think that because of all the advantages you have in life, you are almost expected to just take whatever you're given, and that you are
like it's fair game.
Yeah, you're like what do you call those bloody horses that you smash at a party? You're allowed to have piñata?
Piñata. I was saying maniata.
Maniata, yeah. No, but you're allowed to have a go, and you're allowed to have an opinion, allowed to have a step. But I mean, they obviously shouldn't do it. But I mean, all I can think is that people will say whatever they can to get attention. So, and I even see it in news now. It's all for clickbait. It's all so that you clicked on his picture. If he said, "Oh, that's a nice photo," you probably wouldn't have bothered. So now you've noticed him or her or whatever it was, and you've gone in. There you go. But do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have done that if he hadn't have said something nasty. So that kind of breeds. I don't know. It's sort of a bad cycle, and people. Yeah,
it's like when someone makes a horrendous joke about somebody, a comment, and then somebody has to be funnier, and then someone has to be funnier, more obnoxious, and more distasteful. Anyway, I just think people need to do better. I just think be kind, do better. Everyone's gonna make mistakes, but
too easy for people now. They sit keyboard warriors. They can sit there. They're allowed to say anything. And this is what frightens me the most. Bringing up kids into this world, and there's when do you give them smartphones, when do you allow, and I don't know if you've seen that amazing adolescence program that I'm sure everybody's been talking about. Have you seen that on Netflix? Have you watched
I actually haven't watched it yet, but I've heard all about it.
Yeah, I mean it's frightening, and you sort of just letting giving your kids a smartphone is basically just giving the world
access
to get to them, to say bad things, to and again, going back to some of those podcasts that myself and Christian have been listening to on these tours, even through computer games, you get apps, nasty people getting to kids or getting to people through the games. It's a horrible world out there, which is why for me, and especially coming through, I don't speak Norwegian. I kind of live a very, I wouldn't say secluded life, but like I have, just a very small group of friends. I have my family, my immediate family. And that's kind of it. And I'm kind of okay with that. And I do keep up loosely with what goes on in the world of the news and the politics. But even that, I don't know what's true and what's not anymore. I don't know what what news channel do you can you read that doesn't have its own agenda? You can just see that. Sometimes when I won't say what news outlet it is, but sometimes when I go down it and they go like, World War III has started, and I'm like, Earth, and I click onto it. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with it. They just want people to click onto that. So, and there's so much fake news out there, and all the, I don't know what's true anymore. All I do know is that I have a small group of people that I love and I need to protect, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I know, it's well said. It's well said. Fair play to you. Right, Ben Adams, I'm going to finish on this. 5 names. Put together your ultimate boy band of everyone that's living or dead. It can be Michael Jackson, as you mentioned earlier. It could be Frank Sinatra. It could be whoever the hell you think you want to be. You can put yourself in there. You can put anybody you like in there. But here's the deal, okay? Somebody's going to leave. We know that. Paul left you guys. Brian left us. So whoever you put in, you got to also tell me which one of the guys is going to leave.
Right. Okay. Good. Right. Good. I wish I had some preparation.
Yeah. No, I don't like preparation. I don't like tipping people off because then they'll think about it.
And they'll come up with clever answers. Yeah.
You're on the spot here.
Okay. Why don't we put me and you in it to start with?
Okay.
Just because we're here.
And then we allegedly used to not like each other, but now we have to get on because we're in a band.
No, we have to because we're in, but only for a period. One of us can leave at any time. Do you know what I mean?
Should you Steve Mack?
There you go. Yeah, great, perfect. We'll add Steve Mack in there. Why not? See, he's doing really well. He can write all of our songs.
Okay.
I'll stay out of it. None of this Like a Rose rubbish or Bernard. Steve Max. And let's put in Tracy Chapman.
Oh, lovely.
I mean, I know it's a boy band, but I guess that's fine.
That's okay. We'll go with a mixed group here.
Yeah,
go with Skips.
Yeah, perfect. And why not? Let's put Tim Byrne in there. The off manager.
He's gonna love you when he listens back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just because he's such a good dancer. And then
Burns in the one band, spelt the same way as well. Jesus. Okay.
And
Ben Adams. Well, we don't. You got Ben Adams, Nicky Byrne, Steve Mack, Tracy Chapman, Tim Byrne. You're 5 now, and this one to kick that already.
I mean, I'll be honest. I would love to see this band actually come. I mean, I know nobody that's watching or listening to this podcast is going to know half these people, but for me, that is a joyous group of people.
Right, which one of these souls is going to walk out in a huff and want to move on?
Probably you, because you're Westlife and you hate us. And you've got better things to do.
Tell me, would you put a name on this? I know that's really pushing us.
Yeah, I would say Band from Hell.
Okay, Ben Adams, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. To be fair, you've been a joy to speak to, as I knew you would be. And sorry for you hating us all those years ago and all those things.
Dude, I didn't. I didn't feel accepted, but now I do.
Love to all the lads. Love to Sarah and the kids, and the best of luck with everything you do. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Ben Adams.
Thank you.
6-time Emmy Award winner and Tony Award nominee Jean Smart returns to Broadway for 12 weeks only in a world premiere play about a writer whose words are her only way out.
Call me Izzy.
Get tickets at callmeizzyplay.com.
Take control of the numbers and supercharge your small business with Xero. That's Xero. With our easy-to-use accounting software with automation and reporting features, you'll spend less time on manual tasks and more time understanding how your business is doing. 87% of surveyed U.S. customers agree Xero helps improve financial visibility. Search Xero with an X or visit Xero.com/ACAST to start your 30-day free trial. Conditions apply.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate, and they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.